Welcome to Unfertile and Unfiltered, an unfiltered podcast about male factor and fertility. My name is Sydney.
My name's Matt.
And this is our story.
Yeah, today's episode, we're going to talk about...
What are we talking about? Your favorite topic?
Sperm donor.
Sperm donors and all the different things.
Such a down.
Such a what?
Such a downy.
Such a downer topic. Yeah.
Me, at least.
Okay, so I wanted to dive into it first. Do you remember when we initially started talking about a donor? Like, basically day one. How did you feel about it then?
No, because, day one was we took the first test and it's like, oh, well, if I don't have sperm and we have to do a sperm donor, he's got to be 6'4" and sexier than me.
That was your,
that was my whatever.
Yeah.
Here we are.
So it was more of like we were joking about it, we threw it around. We were always saying like, okay, we're going to do a donor. And then now here we are. How are you feeling about it right now?
None of it was real of like me actually processing my emotions until you then had to start, like your appointment started.
Mm-hmm.
Because then it was like, this has now become a reality.
Yeah.
Of like, oh, like, we might have to use a donor.
Yeah. So it almost became real the second that it was like, okay, well now, even though we kept saying we were going to do a donor.
Because my surgery was December 2nd. They found nothing, and your appointments didn't start till like what, 2 months?
Like a couple weeks ago.
2 weeks ago?
Yeah.
So I had like 2 months of like.
Which for me, that's ample time to process, figure out, and move on.
So much time to
process
the rest of your life, huh?
Here's the thing though, and what's so hard about it is how I deal with grief is I'm like, okay, now what's the next step? Like, moving on, what's the next step? So for me, I'm like, okay, let's move forward and we'll do a donor. We've talked about embryo transfer and we've talked about how I would be open to embryo adoption, but I feel like you're pretty anti-embryo adoption.
Well, you can have kids. I think embryo adoption's stupid.
Yeah, so then I'm like, okay, fine. If it's not embryo adoption, then let's move forward with the sperm donor.
Yeah.
I know, it's the worst. I'm sorry. I'm ready to go. I'm not ready to go.
Well, I know, but that's what we're going to move forward. I mean, I still have moments of like, okay, well, screw that. Let's just do freaking adoption. But adoption's a long process.
It's so expensive.
And expensive.
Like 30 plus grand.
Plot to IVF's apparently really cheap.
It's not cheap. Well, this version we could do it a lot cheaper.
Yeah, because there's a study. So you get one round free.
And with adoption, it's per child is like 30,000+ versus it gets cheaper with it. Anyways, yeah. So initially, I feel like you were like, "Oh yeah, making jokes. It'll be hotter. He'll be hotter." And then now, as it's gotten more real, it's cut a little bit deeper, and we're still trying to navigate that and figure out those feelings and whatever that looks like. So before we dive into all of it, I figured we should probably go over like the 3 different types that are most common, just to explain that and what that looks like. So there's 3 types. There is a known donor, an open ID donor, and an anonymous donor. The known donor is somebody that you know that is donating that sperm. So people have had brothers, like uncles.
Not coming from a sperm bank.
Not coming from a sperm bank, friends. Like, it's basically anybody that you know in your life that you're having donate. As far as that process goes, it's a very expensive process as well. We started going down that route just to explore it and look at what that would cost. And it's legal fees to pay for your legal fees, and you also pay for theirs. You pay for all of their medical exams, all their medical testing, all of their genetic testing and everything. You have to pay when they've donated the sperm. You have to pay for that to get tested and evaluated.
Tested, stored, all the vials.
Yeah, you have to store all the vials. I mean, that's with any donor.
If they don't live close by, you got to fly them out, fly them back.
Pay per diem, all those things. Oh, you have to pay so we have to go to a genetic counselor before we move forward with any kind of donor. You also have to pay for their genetic counseling to make sure that they know and understand what's going on. So when we were possibly exploring that, it was looking like it would be closer to like 5,000 to 10,000, basically, between all the different costs and all the stuff.
Which, luckily, I mean, when we were looking into it, we talked with a lawyer. The internet, ChatGPT, keeps telling us all these expensive prices. Like, it told me that my surgery was going to be
more expensive,
like $8,000. It said your surgery was going to be like
Well,
8,000.
it's just not doing Utah.
And then ChatGPT told us that for us to pay for a lawyer was going to cost like 4 to 5 grand, and
Mhm.
it's $1,200 if for us, and it was 300 for the other person. So it's like,
Yeah.
what the heck?
So it definitely was cheaper.
It was cheaper, but I mean everything.
It's still, it just
It
like,
all just adds
it
up.
just compounds, yeah. And as far as I guess we can go through these or to talk through about it in more in depth. As far as a known donor for you, I know for me there was then complications. No matter who the known donor is, there's complications of like how close are they to you? So how often would they see the kids, and then like how do you manage that relationship and the oddness of it? And then I think there's the element of like I almost was feeling as if we went down that route, then it would negate you being the father. Does that make sense? Because it
So
like it almost puts like a person to that scenario.
yes,
What's your take on like what were your
the
feelings
tipping point
with
for
known
me
any kind of known donors that we were possibly
was
considering?
the difference between which we've already, I think we mentioned, we will not do an anonymous donor.
Yeah, we can go to that point, but yeah.
But the difference between a sperm donor and a known donor is the with a sperm donor, the kids do not get to like access to their contact till they're 18. With a known donor, I mean they could live 2 blocks away, like they could be a cousin, or like even like you could technically use a brother. And so then that incorporates them more into the family's life. And I think that was like a sperm donor just keeps it simple. It's like, hey, when you're 18, guess what? You can reach out. And obviously they'll see photos of who their dad is while they're growing up. But it's a simple like, hey, when you're 18, you can go out and meet them if you want.
Yeah.
Versus a known donor is like, technically we could drive or fly you out and see them because we know exactly who they are. And
Yeah. And if they're obviously, and for us, I don't think there was an option. Like, one of the positives to it would have been possibly having some kind of a family so that at least, kind of felt like it was genetics coming from you.
yeah.
But then there was some elements of that creates complications. And even if there was somebody, I think you nailed it on the head where it almost, then it becomes less, for me, it was becoming less of a sperm donor and more of like a dad, right? Or the parent. Like it was almost putting like too much weight for us and how we were seeing it, right?
Yeah, with them being involved in their life, the older they get, they will obviously see me as their father, but then in the back of their mind, if the donor is just accessible and close, I don't know, I feel like the kids are always gonna be like, well, that's my actual dad though, you know?
Which I think is probably a little bit of, I think that's probably stuff that you actually just have to work through emotionally because I think being a dad or a father is so much more than just genetics. But
Yeah,
I
I
know that's
agree.
like a valid thing to be feeling and going through with that.
But they're genetically.
I know, but I'm just saying, like, I think there's some of which I think is okay because we're not going with that route. But I think that is something that if we did go with that route, we could have navigated, and it would just be work that you would have to do emotionally so that you could get in a good spot there.
You also don't know how your kids are gonna react.
Yeah, you don't know how they react. So the reason, and so honestly, ultimately, why we're currently deciding to go away from any kind of known donor option is just because there didn't really, we had a couple of options, but none of them seemed like great options. Based off of like just with different reasons, and obviously don't want to get too personal with those individuals that we've thought through and whatnot. But yeah, so that's a known donor. I've heard plenty of experiences where it's gone really well and people have had really good experiences with it. So I don't want to negate the fact that like those experiences because people have had good ones. But for us, it just didn't feel like it was going to be a very good option.
Yeah.
So then you go to a sperm bank. Sperm bank is the option. And you kind of have two options, which actually I think they're really leaning away from anonymous at this point. So there's open ID, which is what you explained, where when, you obviously, we have pictures, we have medical history, we have different things from them, but then they can't actually contact and know the individual's identity until they're 18. And still at that point, like the donor could decide not to like talk to the kids or reach out to them. So that's open ID donor. Anonymous donor is which I still think we get to see we could still see pictures of the anonymous donors. You just never find out their actual names or information, and kids can never reach out when they're 18.
Yeah.
Based off of all the research that we've done, Um,
The internet suggests it's not. It's we're not saying it's if because I'm sure there's people out there that have done anonymous donors. We're not saying it's bad. The what we've looked and researched is the data shows it's better for the kids to be at least able to know.
well, yeah, I've read a lot of resources from genetic counselors talking about even if the kid never reaches out to their known or to their open ID donor, just being able to have that option gives them a sense of like identity and a sense of closure if they do want to reach out to that. And actually, one thing I was going to point out is I think anonymous donor is actually slowly phasing out and they're not really doing it anymore because it is such a it
Well, they
is.
don't allow it in other countries, right? Like
I don't
Europe,
think they allowed
they
it.
don't
I was
allow.
talking to someone I can't remember. I don't want to quote myself on any of that because I genuinely can't remember. I need to look at that. But the other reason why anonymous donor just doesn't really make sense is if you do 23andMe, which is like a genetic test and it can tell you all these people you're connected with, like easily you could find out who your sperm donor was
Yeah,
through that if they ever did it.
if they did it.
So there's just like so many reasons why. Again, I know people do it. I know a long time ago that was kind of the only option. But based off of what I've read, the ideal scenario is that it's an open ID so that if the kid wants the option, then they can have the option.
Yeah,
How do you feel about that? Them having that option when they're 18? Like, is there anything that scares you with that or what does that
I
look
think
like for
that's
you?
fine at that point.
But do you have any like fears of being rejected as a parent? Or you might not, I'm just
I mean, I'm
curious.
sure there will be a little bit of that, but it's hard to tell 20 years from now what I'm gonna feel.
Yeah. We were just reading this book. It's called Three Makes Baby or something like that. It's the book that we've read a couple times
Yeah.
throughout the weeks. Have you liked that book? Has there been anything that stood out to you with that book of
Yeah, I mean, when it did all the check marks, it shows how much I don't like any situation related to this.
don't like the fact that you're infertile, basically?
Yeah.
One thing I thought was interesting that we had read through is uh, it was talking about going through genetic grief of like grieving what you thought you were going to have. Do you remember that part?
No.
You're probably like half listening while I was reading it out loud.
Half
But
asleep.
it was just talking about how like that is something that you have to hold a space for the parent that isn't genetically being connected to them. That like there's an element. Have you felt that at all of almost grieving the kids that you thought you would have and now
I
it's
think I
going to
will
look
grieve
different?
that when they're growing up.
But you don't have that right now. You don't it seems like you might have it a little bit if you're obviously hesitant about a sperm donor. So I feel like you are possibly grieving that.
Well,
For a valid reason, 100% valid reason.
it's like, oh, okay, well, I feel like I'm raising someone else's kid. Because it's like, oh, well, it's not mine. That's the tricky part of it.
Yeah. But then how is that different for you with adoption? Because that's the same scenario.
The baby needs a parent.
Okay.
And it's like the child's been abandoned
Yeah.
or is being given up and that baby needs a home. It's different than walking into like, okay, well, you're going to get pregnant and I'm going to raise that child
Yeah.
or raise those 5 kids.
Yeah.
It's a little more tricky when it's like, okay, and that's why I'm going to therapy, right? But it's like, oh, well, I'm raising your kids, you know?
Yeah. Sounds like we need to go through sounds like we need a lot more therapy before we actually move forward with any kind of donor.
Yeah. Which is why I'm going through it. And I'm sure we're going to do an episode on that eventually of all the.
Which I reached out to. I think my problem with your group, or your problem as well that we've talked about. Your problem with currently your therapy is it's group therapy and it's not focused around. It's focused around anxiety and depression, but it's not really focused around the scenario that you're going through right now.
No, it's not even that. It's the group of guys there. Like, it's not deep.
Yeah,
It's
nobody's
just like
sharing.
it's just like they throw out solutions and like techniques to like help yourself, but it's like we're not getting it. Like, I don't know. It doesn't feel like the other people are getting very deep into like
They're not being very vulnerable.
what what is causing it, why is it being caused, and what am I feeling in those situations. So that's a little tricky because I'll be like I'll share all the emotions relating to like not being a father, and it's just like, okay, but it's, I don't know, you can't, I don't know what's going on at other people's heads, but to me it's like, okay, this is like very surface level.
Yeah. And we reached out to, they haven't gotten back to me yet, but we reached out to a specific genetic therapist and counselor who worked with these scenarios that I think would be really helpful for you to go to, for then me to go to separately. So like to help understand what you're going through, and then for us to go together, because I think we are both grieving with a sperm donor. Obviously, I have genetic kids. I am still grieving, though, the fact that we aren't going to have kids together. And I think that both of us need probably more empathy for the other, or sympathy for whatever the actual title is. Sympathy for each other and the experience that we're currently going through.
Yeah.
Of like, you're mourning something, but I'm also mourning something. And then like finding that middle ground of how to move forward with it.
Yeah.
You know? So, things we never asked for, never wanted to go through. It's kind of, is this a joke? Is this a reality television show? They're going to come out and prank us?
It's how it is.
Okay, so we're moving forward to sperm donor. At least that's currently the plan. So we have to go sperm donor shopping online, which essentially means we've created accounts on a bunch of different websites. The websites that I've created an account on are Zytex. I think it's how you spell it. No, it's an X. It starts with an X. Anyways, it's XYTYX. Anyways, that one, Cryobank. I did one on California where they charge you, and then Seattle Sperm Bank. So those are the current ones there's a few other ones.
And they'll charge you $50 so you can see the stupid adult photos.
The California and the California and Seattle do. So far we've paid $100 to access everything for Seattle. Essentially what it is though is you get on there, you log on, there's a ton of filters that you can choose from between like ethnicity. What else does it show up? Do you remember?
Ethnicity, religion, height, weight, everything you need to know about.
I'm pulling it up right now so we can. Anyways, what's interesting is when we started, remember it was like a few weeks ago. I was on a Sunday and I was like, hey, let's look at donors. I want to look at donors together. It was actually the absolute worst day that we could have done it. I didn't know. You didn't tell me. But do you remember why?
No.
It was when you were like sitting up. We were at church.
Oh, yeah. I left church because I was like, screw this. I don't want to look at any kids.
Well, you were sitting on the pew, so you could see everybody. And what was that experience?
And I was just looking at all these people with all their kids.
And the kids look like them.
And so as soon as I could get out, I just left and went home. I'm like, oh.
I think that was the first time when it like hit of.
Yeah.
You think so?
Yeah, I was like, this is a bunch of bull crap. And
so that happened. I didn't know it happened. You didn't really communicate that happened. So I said, hey, let's like do
it. I didn't tell you till like a couple weeks later, like, you know that, like, I skipped church that day.
Yeah, which I was annoyed about because I'm like, dude, I don't know that. You have to communicate with me that like, I didn't know that. So I was just like, let's look at donors.
But then there's me just sitting in my thoughts of like, why would I tell you that? You don't understand.
See, but then you're just being a victim and you're not actually communicating.
It's true.
You're not communicating to me. Yeah. I can't do things if you don't communicate.
Yeah.
Which we've talked about in length. But anyway, so I said, hey, let's go sperm donor shopping. So when we first, and I just pulled it up. So you can choose like hair color, race/ethnicity, eye color, RH factor, Jewish ancestry, their weight, their height.
Can't you pick blood type too?
Maybe. Not on this one, you can't. And then you can show donors that some donors have adult photos, some donors don't. And so like choosing that.
Yeah.
And then also open ID donor. So I remember when we first searched, it was like 6'4", what are the options?
Then there's like 4 dudes.
And there was like 4 guys. So we started very, very picky. And then we had to scale back a little bit. And there's just not like a lot of, I don't know, it's so hard because you're looking for an attractive partner.
I want to say this in the nicest way possible, but I'm genuinely curious as to what sperm banks are thinking when they're accepting ID people. Like,
but you can't discriminate on how they look. Sorry, finish. You finish. You got it.
I mean, I am, but I'm not saying anything about the way that I look.
Oh, okay. Keep going then.
But I am.
Okay.
Of like, I feel like as a sperm bank, you would want people with high quality genetics, not like, and this like I'm saying, I'm not being offensive or anything, but like bald people. Like, are you trying to set your kid up to be bald? I don't know. There's nothing wrong with being bald, but like bald or like, I don't know. Some of the adult photos are like the scruffiest, ugliest beards that are like not, like they're not groomed. And it's like, what? I don't know. What are we doing?
You're gonna get canceled for that. No, just
I
kidding.
might.
But here's a perspective that I'm gonna offer to you. What if their husband is bald? And so they're actually, in their mind, oh, like, this looks very similar to my husband.
That's true.
Like, I wouldn't say that baldness or, like, not looking attractive would be considered
No, I agree.
genetics.
I think that anyone that's like working through, I mean, I don't know. You're usually not like fully bald till like, I do not know, like people my age.
I know a couple. I don't know. I know a kid that was bald at like 21.
Okay.
Yeah.
But I'm
just saying,
I don't know. Literally, my whole 4 years of college, I don't know if I ever met a bald kid, unless it was because of cancer.
No, yeah. I had a lot of bald guys.
I don't know. Okay, we're totally.
No,
now we're on a bald tangent.
And I don't think.
But
we love bald people.
So what I'm wondering is like, fine. I don't know. Are these sperm banks just taking what they get? Because I don't know. Maybe people just don't donate sperm.
But here's the thing, though. I listened to a podcast and they walked through the process, and it's like a 6 to year-long process to actually donate because they like test and they wait and they check all these things. So I think what you're forgetting is they're checking the health of their body. If somebody is bald, they're healthy. They're still a healthy person.
Yeah,
they're checking the health of their body and maybe they're carrier screening and making sure they're not passing stuff down like diseases and whatnot.
Yeah.
So I don't think that's. I get where you're saying and where you're coming from, but like there's so much that goes into play than just like, oh, you're bald, so no, we're not going to accept you. I just don't think people running to sperm banks to donate. And I think the other thing to think about is like for us, you're 6'4". So for us, people that are shorter than that, that's like a downside. But for somebody who has a husband that's like 5'9", they don't really care. They actually probably want somebody that's like similar to them so that it mimics kind of.
Well, and I don't even care about the height thing.
I know. I'm just saying that's an easy example of like there's some people that we would absolutely never choose, but for some people that actually they look similar or have similar traits to their husband, and so for them that's like.
Because we talked about sperm donors in like the second episode or something.
I think we mentioned them.
And it's just going through the sperm donor process. It's not great options. Then at least I was okay.
There's less than we thought. They're kind of the height that we want. We're shallow, so we want them to be attractive in our eyes of what we think is more attractive. I think those are like our two. We started with, we want them to be brown-eyed, 6'4", this. And now we've like gotten down to a base of like, okay, we'd like for you to be attracted to us.
Well, they gotta be 6 foot.
And you have to probably be at least 6'4", because that's something that you care about, because that's obviously a gene, or that's like you're tall, so that's something you care about.
Well, no, I don't want 5'6" kids.
Which again, I'm saying is because of your height.
Because of my height, yes.
If you were somebody that was that height, then you wouldn't care because you're like, this is who I am. It's fine.
Totally agree.
So I'm saying because of your height and because of your genetics, you would prefer those.
So my cutoff was originally 6'4", now it's 6 foot.
Now it's like 6'4", or yeah, 6 foot.
Has to be 6 foot.
Yeah. Anyways, now we sound like the most shallow people in the world. But you know what people don't like when you say like this is hard? What's so hard about it, and I've talked to my mom about it so many times, because I had somebody say a pretty insensitive comment where I said, like, you don't understand. It's like, I already thought I picked the father of my children and now I'm not. Or now I have to do it again. And they're like, well, yeah, you already did it. So, like, what's so hard about it? But what they don't understand is we both have physical flaws, personality flaws. But because.
See?
What?
Now we're back. Now we're back.
Well,
we're like, okay.
Okay, well, and I guess.
This goes back to where it's like, okay, well, I don't know if I, like, you know how you were talking about, like, my emotional thing of, like, well, you have to now pick, like, okay, what do my genes and this random guy I have to pick now have to look like?
Yeah.
For me, it's like, okay, I'm raising another man's children with you.
Which, again, is, you're going to have to go to therapy for that one. Bless your heart. Because either way, we're raising somebody else's children. Like,
exactly.
Doesn't matter who we choose, it's somebody else's children. I have argued to you, let's do embryo adoption so then you don't feel like that anger about me having a genetic tie. But you keep saying no on embryo adoption. So I'm like, okay, we can't do that. But I guess what I was trying to say with that is when you fall in love with somebody, then you, like, physical features or personality flaws become endearing because you're like, but I love this person, so I'm okay with these things. But when you were just genetically looking at somebody, you become so much more picky because that's all they have to offer. So that is why it's like, oh, they're bald. I don't want my kids to be bald because you're
Because I'm not bald. Yeah.
or just even because we're picking something. So I don't know. My biggest thing, your pickiness about the baldness, which that's valid. My biggest thing is the nose because I really like your nose. It's a small, nice, petite nose. Like it's a good nose. So for me, I have a really hard time looking at donors when they have a bigger nose because I'm like, it's something that I have fallen in love with and I find endearing and I like about you.
We're just going to get completely canceled because of this.
No, but I think this is like the super valid thing where it's like, it's so hard because you're not just falling in love with a person and being like, I want that my kids, like you are just picking their genetics. And that's why it's so much pressure and so hard because like, what if our kids are not cute? And then I'm like, well, I picked wrong. Like,
well,
it's just different.
My whole life, I was raised like, okay, like we serve others, you be selfless. And it's like, but when you're picking your spouse, no, you're selfish. You pick who you want.
Yeah.
You be selfish. So now it's like, okay, we're now being selfish when it comes to who the donor is.
And we only have so many things that we get to pick.
And you only have so many options.
Like the donor's only going to pass down so many things. And so those are the things we have to be so nitpicky about. Or it feels like we need to be so nitpicky about because you're sitting there analyzing like, are they going to have this? Are they going to have that? Do I like that? Am I okay with that? I don't know because I'm picking just his genetics and I'm not picking anything else.
And that's why it's like, okay, every couple is going to have, like, I don't know, the next couple that picks that's some other couple it's going to have completely different wants than us.
Like I've talked to somebody who her husband is, husband's a redhead. And so they're like, oh, we were looking for somebody who was a redhead. Where for us, we would never look for a redhead because you're not, and that wouldn't resemble you at all, right? So everybody's going to have that pickiness. But I guess what I was trying to outline is why it's so hard and why people don't always understand the amount of pressure and thought and things you go into. So it's the worst. It's doozy. Yeah. So basically you go on there, you pick the thing, like it literally is like shopping with a product. You click on the donor. Well, I mean, not exactly shopping, but the things that you get with it, you click on the donor and they actually give you like a list. So you get like the paid version. We get an adult photo, baby photo. There's an audio file. So they actually did like an audio interview of the individual. There's a personality test that they took. So you can read through that. They have their family medical history. They have their genetic screen carrier. So I took a genetic screening carrier thing. They took that same test, and any guy that we're choosing will make sure that we don't have any recessive genes that match up. So we don't like give kids the worst case scenario. And then it tells you, what's kind of interesting on it is it tells you how many vials they have available, how many have been purchased, and if there's any pregnancies that have come out of that purchase. So the current guy that we're looking at, there's a couple of vials that have been purchased, but no pregnancies have happened from him. How do you feel about that current guy that we're looking at? What do you like about him? I mean, I know you're saying worst possible, but I'm just saying for a scenario, how do you feel about that guy?
He was 6 foot and he was the most attractive guy.
Yeah. How did you think? We listened to his audio interview last week. What did you think about that?
He seems very intelligent.
He was using big words.
He's got a big vocab.
He said that he likes to watch collegiate and professional basketball.
And I'm like, I am a sports guy, and I never have ever used the word collegiate sports my whole life.
But anyways, he was smart. That was like the only thing I think of. But he was using so he was very intelligent, which is something to think about because
basketball.
He likes basketball.
Oh, that's one of the other things. Yeah, he likes basketball. He plays basketball.
Oh, you care about athleticism. You would prefer that they had some athletic background.
Yeah.
Because you were big into basketball and all the sports. Yeah, so a couple of things when I've looked through it. Physical traits can pass down, obviously, height, eye color, hair color, body build tendencies. Some of the neural things could be ADHD, autism spectrum, learning differences. So the fact that he seems like a smarter individual, you can't pass on IQ, but mentally you can pass down some of those tendencies. Mm-hmm. You can also pass down anxiety, depression, bipolar disorder. So those are some things that we've looked at as well. So we have a guy that we're interested in. He is blonde, so that would be a downside. But I think we could. You
were huge on it says he has fair skin. I look at the photo, I'm like, he looks like he can tan.
I know.
The man looks like he can tan.
That was also something that I cared about because we both have more olive skin and can tan.
If I am out in the sun for one day, and I burn,
it's winter.
It's both of us.
Yeah, it's winter.
We go out for one day, we
can
burn, the next day it turns it's a tan.
Again, this goes back to the fact that I'm like, genetically, I never thought I had to, like,
Yeah.
I don't know. He said that his brother tans more. He could, like, take some stuff, and his brother has a little bit darker complexion, and I think his parents have the darker complexion. It's, like, fair but can tan or something like that. Anyways, I'd sound so...
So a mix between him and your genes will make sure they can tan.
I did a ChatGPT babies. He has a mustache in his picture, and all my ChatGPT babies had a mustache.
That's right.
My 2-year-old, you know, I asked for a 2-year-old boy and girl, and the 2-year-old boy has a mustache, so that was kind of funny. But yeah, again, things that people don't think about that you're like, I didn't think about this, and I was fine. If you were pale, I'd be fine because you're my husband and we're passing down our genes. But if you're not my husband and I'm picking, then I have preferences.
Yeah.
So it's, you know, something else that was tough. So, and this is gonna be the longest episode, but there's just so many things that go into it. Religiously, we don't drink, or based off of our religion, we don't drink alcohol,
Drink,
drugs,
smoke.
Like, that's religious choice that we've chosen. And obviously, with alcohol, like, there's a choice, or like, there's health benefits of not drinking alcohol. So you watch any videos and they say, like, we advise that men don't drink alcohol, like 3 months before they start trying to have kids, whatever, because it optimizes health. So one downside when I was looking through his thing is it talks about, like, oh, he, like, socially drinks 4 to 5 times a week. So that was an element where I was like, see, things like this where we can't control.
One big thing that we've looked at is the health of the sperm can affect morning sickness.
Yeah.
And now I'm off the hook. No, if you have a horrible pregnancy, it can't be because of me, because you don't have my sperm.
I can't say, that's the one positive thing is when I'm pissed and I want to be pissed at you because I have morning sickness, you gotta be like, don't look at me, look at the donor we picked.
Look at the donor.
But it's just another element to highlight of things that you can't control, and it's frustrating because we can't religiously be picky and be like, yeah, they can't drink alcohol. Not that it's a religious, some people just don't drink it because it's not good for you, but so many elements that you can't control. So I think we still are not decided. So if you decided, so we pick the guy, literally you add him to a cart and you buy the dog.
$700 a file.
For this one, it's $700. California is more expensive.
Too bad because some are $1,200 a vial.
No, California cryobank, I was looking, some of them are like $2,000, which could be worth it for us to spend money and look at it to maybe see if they have better options. Because if we're just using one vial for IVF, then you might as well get like exactly what you want.
True.
So we got to get on that. But
we'll look into that.
The element that also goes into dealing with the donor is then there's that argument between, okay, do you do IVF, where you only have to use one vial to maybe get multiple kids? But if you don't do IVF, then you have to do IUI, where IUI,
you need lots of...
They say you should do 2 to 3 vials per pregnancy because it's like you're trying to conceive.
3 vials at California is $6,000.
Or 7, so there's 2,100 for 3. And the other thing is they limit. There's only 30 vials, and they limit the amount of vials that you can purchase as a family. So I don't know what the limit is for Seattle, but it's more than just like we can only get so many. So that also then plays into our choice of doing IVF, of like, well, if we want them to be all genetically connected, then you like almost the best way to do it is IVF, even though it's more expensive. So those are all the things that people don't think about when you're dealing with the donor choice and what that looks like.
Yeah.
You know, and all the things. So we move for donor, we pick one, moving forward. What's your take on how open we're going to be with our kids about being donor conceived?
Whatever the internet suggests.
So you're saying basically, Sydney, do the research and then tell me what it is?
You've told me that you're supposed to tell them when they get older.
Well, no, the book that we're reading, and we'll go over that, it talks about telling them, so there's like baby books that talk about being donor conceived, and it kind of introduces that concept of mommy or daddy might look different than mom, just like different things. What I have read is talking about it since the moment that they're born. So it's not some big reveal, some big event, it's just like this normalized, like, oh yeah, you're donor conceived. That is what it is, you know?
Yeah.
Do you disagree with that?
No, I think the terminology is weird.
You hate the fact that it's
I think you're beating around the bush by saying donor conceived when it's like the biological father. You were conceived with a different biological father because I didn't have sperm. I think it's like just say it the way it is.
But let me argue the other way. Maybe it's not for your safe. Maybe it's not for your mental safety. It's or like you're annoyed because you want to mentally acknowledge that you're not the father genetically. But that could hurt the child if you're like, yeah, I'm not your biological father. Instead of what I'm saying is you're it's almost downplaying to what they actually are. They were an ingredient to be created. They had a
Then
donor.
their
They were donor conceived. They had
biological
a
donor.
seed. Great. I mean, I know it's a donor. Like that's the same thing.
Yeah.
I think you wanting to say that is just basically because you're currently grieving with that, which is totally fine. But I'm just saying, if you were like, yeah, your biological father, then you're like emphasizing that you are not their father, which isn't true.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, yeah, we can go through genetic counseling and see what they have to say with it. But from what I've read, you very much emphasize that they had there's the analogy of like they had a seed that like mommy needed and dad didn't have a seed, so they gave the seed.
Yeah.
Like that's a way to say it. Or an ingredient, or however you say it as a baby for them to understand, oh, you were donor conceived. And you were no less your dad's child just because you were donor conceived.
Yeah.
Like there's those elements there with saying that.
Yeah.
So then, anyways, they've talked about talking about it since as a baby. One of the things that is advised is creating like a life book of how they're created. So documenting this whole process and then creating like almost a scrapbook.
We got a podcast.
I know. Well, I know, but like a picture, and you can read through of like this is how mommy and daddy they went to the doctor and the doctor helped get a seed and I haven't done all the specific research, but that's what they say.
Yeah.
So that for kids they have a sense of self and they understand and it's not some big event. Kind of like when my brother found out that Santa Claus was not real.
At 11 years old.
I know. He was such a
so
believer.
late.
He was
It's
such a
so
believer.
late.
So excited. Or
he was pissed.
My mom didn't want to get bullied this year, so she's like, he's not real. And then he questioned a lot. He was like, you guys been laughing at me. I'm so embarrassed. He kind of was questioning a little bit about some religious stuff because he's like, well, if Santa isn't real, then is Jesus real? Because Jesus is the guy we talk about. Yeah. So that's why I'm like, no, we definitely cannot do that. There's no lying to kids.
That's called betrayal. He felt betrayed.
He totally did. My mom felt so bad.
Yeah.
Well, and she didn't really deal with that because we all kind of just figured it out as we got older.
I found out so young. So young.
I was like 6, so
there
was no time to be
I
betrayed.
just don't. Did his friends never be like, oh, Santa's a bunch of bullcrap? Like,
I have no idea.
Brigham been living under a rock?
Dude, I don't know. I have no idea. I love it. I love that he was all about it for so long.
Yeah, because he was crazy psycho about Elf on the Shelf.
Yeah, I love it. It was so
dead.
cute. So I think that's the biggest thing we're trying to avoid is a moment of them losing sense of self and being like, I was lied to. And instead it's just a very normalized, yeah, this is what happened. Not to make this so long, but there's so much to cover with this. Another thing that people don't think about is the fact that our kids are going to have half siblings out there.
Maybe. Pretty high chance, but yeah.
I mean, if we're going through a sperm bank, why wouldn't they have half siblings?
Well, because the guy that worth considering in his thing says, well, one thing I like about donating is I am getting into my later 30s, or was it 30 or something? And he's not married, doesn't have kids. He's like, if I never have the chance to have kids, it's kind of cool to know that I do have kids out there.
Like genes out there. But sorry, you're not thinking about the fact that other people are going to use his sperm. So they're on average, there's 20 half siblings out there from donors. Depending on, because
they have that many vials.
Well, if I use one vial for IVF and I have 4 kids from that.
I know, but if people do IUI, they're using lots of vials.
I know, but a lot of times people, if they're doing sperm donor, it's through IVF. So if we do IVF, that's 4 kids with 1 vial.
Or he already had 6 vials purchased.
But those people might have been doing IUI.
True.
They genuinely could have been doing IUI and they just didn't know. Obviously, and also not as many people want to have as many kids as people are 1 or 2. So that's an element. I've read a lot of things on it. It's talked about how that's really important to also help kids facilitate. There's Facebook groups or different ways that you can, or donor registry. So different ways that you can connect kids to their half siblings. So that will be an element that we have to navigate. And at least so far, I'm planning on navigating and having them be connected to those because that also helps build sense of self with a child.
Yeah.
But I don't know, it's just like things you don't think about where people are like, oh, well, it's fine, you're gonna do a sperm donor, it's not a big deal. But you're like, no, it doesn't end when you have a kid. That doesn't fix the infertility issue.
Yeah.
It impacts us for the rest of our lives, which is fine. Like, it's whatever. I'm not gonna complain. Our life is fine. We could be so much worse. There's also, yeah. Anyways, okay, cool.
I mean, with all that being said, I think we're gonna talk about it a little bit in the next episode, but we've been doing some ChatGPT and a little bit of research, and the internet is saying that with my current condition, there is a slight chance that I could maybe produce small pockets of sperm if I optimize my health. So a week ago, I started a big lockdown, and I think we'll probably get into it, but I have started basically cutting out a lot of stuff and completely 180ing my lifestyle so that in 6 months to a year that maybe I have a chance to maybe have a biological child someday.
Actually, somebody did ask me on Instagram if we would consider doing a microtesting again. So that's answering that question. Yes. But with this plan, are you trying to eliminate trying to do a donor as well? Or are you saying,
No, we're gonna move forward because just the older you get, the harder it can be to be pregnant. So we could sit around for a whole year. And I mean,
Or
in all,
2?
or 2 years potentially. In all reality, would I love to wait around? Yeah, I probably would. That's probably my go-to, but I know that probably would be difficult for you to have to face.
So you want to wait. Initially, I feel like when we've talked about it, you said that you were
Because that feels selfish.
okay.
So right now and there's the study going on. So, because we could do this and we could do tests in a year or 2 years. I mean, realistically, in my opinion, is if there's no changes in a year, if I've really actually fully 100% optimized my health and cut out all the processed crap and all that, and there's no change, that was the Hail Mary. That was it. So that then is another year pushed back.
Yeah, that's true. It would be then like trying to start the process over again in a year. And there's so many, yeah. We can dive into that. Is that your segment into trying to end this episode?
That's the cliffhanger is what that is.
That's the
cliffhanger for next episode.
Well, I was gonna ask you about how you feel about the kids meeting the donor age. Maybe we already talked about that.
I don't think you did. Can you put that at the end and then?
I don't think people care. Final question, and then we can talk about all the other stuff.
Okay.
How do you feel about our kids, or the importance of our kids being able to talk or meeting when they meet the donors? How do you feel about that? 18, kid decides to meet the donor. How do you think that experience is going to go for you?
I've seen it on TV before, or I think I've seen a movie or
the movie we just watched.
Anyways,
Switch?
or someone told me, I don't know, I heard it from somewhere that like the kid got old enough, they met their biological father, and afterwards they were like, oh, that was weird, like, and then everyone wanted to see him again. That's the one thing I've heard. But then it could also be the other way of like, oh, it's really nice. Like, yeah, I mean, again, it's like, I don't know. Like, I'm sure there will be a little bit of grieving, but I don't know what that's going to feel like. I don't know what that's going to be like.
Yeah.
Until that moment's there.
Yeah.
So, like, yeah, I want whatever my kid is feeling and feels best for them. I want them to do it.
And I think
I can't control it, so whatever.
That's true. Well, I think my biggest thing that I really want to be, I think would be important for both of us to focus on is as we're raising kids, when there is curiosity, I think sometimes parents can, I don't know, like when a kid asks about the birds and bees, parents kind of shut it down because they get awkward. They don't know how to have that discussion. And so I think it'll be really important for us to understand, like, okay, how do you talk about and practice and continue to be open about it so that when the biggest thing is I think having a relationship with a kid where they feel safe to come to us at 13 and saying, you know, I don't feel like other people, whatever it is, whenever they're struggling, like building that close relationship so that they feel safe to ask questions and don't feel like they're hurting us if they're asking questions and if they want to know more about their donor or no, you know, that's, I think, the biggest thing that's important. And for some kids, I've heard some kids that just don't care. And then some kids that are like, yeah, I'd love to meet I'd love to meet them. I have some cousins that are adopted and they are totally fine. And like they see their parents as their parents and they like I don't think they have much of a desire.
Yeah, your brother, we were sitting there, your brother asked them like, do you want to know who your dad is? Yeah.
Yeah, they're like, I don't care. Like, I have my parents. And so that's,
Yeah.
I think, the worst case scenario is that they disown their parents, but I think that's a more common scenario of like they have parents. Like that's
Yeah.
the parents that they have, their adopted parents are their parents.
Yeah.
So I think that's comforting for us. I don't know, was that comforting for you to think about that or no?
Every situation's different, but the selfish part of me wants my kids to respond exactly how your cousins responded.
Yeah. I'm just like, I don't have a dad. Or yeah, like I have my parents, I don't care.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Best case scenario for me is they never care to or want to meet him.
Yeah. So yeah, it's
But
gonna be
like
a
I
lot
said,
of
whatever they want is best for them.
emotional stuff. So to sum it up, there's open ID, known donor, anonymous donor. We're going with open ID. We're going through a bank. Biggest thing is we're going to be open as kids or from a childhood. Read lots of books. Be super open with them about it. Normalize it. Create a life book. Couple of tips was, parents from studies, parents were honest early. Curiosity wasn't shut down. Choice was respected. And then also, I like what this says here. Disclosure isn't a single moment. It's a relationship built over time. So that's just something that we're going to focus on as we're going through and trying to figure it out.
Yeah.
As far as making that decision, we don't really need to make that decision until when?
They're older.
No. I'm saying making the decision of who we're going to go with.
Oh.
We haven't made it yet. We will probably make it when we get closer to, once I finish my hysteroscopy, get cleared, and then we have to decide if we want to move forward with IVF. That's when we have to make a decision one way or the other.
Yeah.
And like who we're doing. The overnight ship it, it's like $800 on top of the $700.
To overnight ship it?
Well, it was going to be $800 to ship your sperm from the Orem one to the fertility clinic, so I'm sure it'll be around that much. Dollar bills. So brutal. And next episode, we'll talk about all the lifestyle changes and all the things that you're doing there.
Yeah.
There's your cliffhanger.
There you go.
Loves a good cliffhanger. Okay, guys. Thanks for tuning in. Hopefully you don't fall asleep. We'll catch you next week. Over and out.